And that was, as I feared, about half an hour. Okay. So questions and answers, there should be plenty.
Why are you
Is it being
laying
just
this
a whole-
board out manually, trace by trace?
I haven't really ever found a very good auto router.
I thought that's how, I thought that was the state of the art 20 years ago. that
Yeah,
all-
yeah. My question: 30 years ago, when last time I used this, it was auto routing, and then it leaves a few things for you to touch up
To
manually.
touch up. My boards have always been so tight the auto router just couldn't handle it.
Does
Okay.
SkyCat have an auto router functionality?
It does have our auto router. I've never actually used it. Okay. I can do some homework to see if I can figure out how to use the auto router. As I say, I've never really had very good luck with auto routers. Now, part of it has been I've been using the free tools, okay? And Eagle won't give you an auto router unless you shell out some money. Altium won't do it unless you shell out some money. So all the professional people want money for their auto routers. KiCad has a free one. I believe it's cloud-based, but I'm not positive on that. Okay. So part of this is we're using the free tools because to save money, and we pay for that with extra labor on our part. So I'll do some homework, and next time I'll tell you how it comes. I'll try and auto route one of these boards and see what comes up with.
I heard tons of people were laid off when they came up with this technology. It didn't have to
I believe that, okay, and when you're paying money for people to do this stuff, you invest in the tool and you lay off the people you don't need, and that's just the way it goes. So the other issue you have is I would basically never trust an average auto router to lay out the power lines right, because you want to get that really right.
for certain high frequency signals.
And certain high frequency signals, like I have on this board, you want them, differential pairs, you really want them as close together as you can get. So a lot of people say you try the auto router and after a while you just give up. Okay, and now I don't know if any of you have ever heard of David Jones in the EEV blog. He talks about people insisting that they have an auto router, and he says, by the time you spend fixing up all the problems, you may not have saved as much time as you thought. So I'll go do some homework. I've been having really dense boards, and I just lay them out by hand. Part of it is I actually enjoy laying out the traces, but that's not a good reason. The goal here is to get the job done. So it's a fair question. Let's go figure it out. So do people understand that in KiCad it's definitely a mouse and one hand on the mouse, one hand on the keyboard to do the extra operations. When I first was using KiCad, I didn't understand that. It was taking me forever to do everything, and then finally I said, well, they've got all these letters here, maybe I should start to use them. And after a while you go like, absolutely, you have to do KiCad using the mouse and keyboard. So.
Do you know how much the auto routers cost on the other programs?
I'm really fuzzy. Eagle, they have their free version, and then they have their next level up, which was, I think, about $250. This is really digging deep. By the time you were sort of decked out in Eagle, I think you were somewhere in the vicinity of $1,500 to $2,000. Completely, this is like numbers that are really in the dusty corners of my mind.
I understand the motivation now.
Yeah, so, but one of the reasons why I tell people about KiCad is, well, the auto router is free, but I haven't used it, so fair enough. that's one of the fun things about teaching a class like this, is the students nudge you to do some things that you would otherwise not do. Who knows, I might actually say, this auto router is pretty cool. So,
So just maybe off topic, don't you need transistors without the LEDs of this chip?
I actually don't know what the current limits on this thing. I would never design a matrix board driving them directly from the microcontroller. If you looked carefully at the homework assignment, I asked you to do an opto-isolator, okay? That is how I would drive these things. I would actually give the LED matrix its own voltage regulator, okay, which was the other schematic symbol I asked you to do, which was a half amp voltage regulator, and opto-isolators, and completely electrically isolate an LED matrix from the logic power supply, okay? Why is that? Well, you wouldn't want to turn all the LEDs on at once, because that's just not the way you drive a matrix. But turning on 8 LEDs at, say, 10 milliamps per LED, that's 80 milliamps. That's a pretty big pulse of current to ask out of your voltage regulator. So that's why I when I finally finish off the 8x8, which is going to take a little while because I don't have a lot of space on this board. I'll either make the board bigger or I'll move things around to clear up some space for it. I will be putting some opto-isolators on there and the voltage regulator to sort of completely isolate it out. And that's just because current spikes are not your friend when you're doing microcontrollers. So, answer your question? Okay. Now the other thing I'd like to point out, you had sent an email talking about how cheap the embedded ARM controllers are. Like I bought some Cortex M0s for 92 cents. Okay, they've gone up since the last time I looked. And, that's the rule on parts, is the prices are always changing and availability is always changing. They're about $1.25 now for the lowest M0 that I could find. If you get into the situation where the part you designed in is either too expensive or unavailable, well, guess what? It's time for another revision of the board. You're going to swap out a part. So that's part of the new here in printed circuit board design, is you get to worry about parts availability, and your solution is you have to design a new parting. Okay. So one of the projects I've worked on recently, they worry about. I'm sorry, Joe. They worry about half-cent costs on parts, okay, because it matters. Because they make millions of this device. I can't tell you what it is, but you get the idea. So that's the reality. Most of what we do is we're down in the 1 to 20 range. So we're not as sensitive about pricing. And I'll tell people that trying to save 50 cents on a part, and you're only going to make 10 of them, but you have to do a whole ton of work on the software side, is not worth it. Use the more expensive part and save yourself the hassle in software. It's engineering. I love engineering. Other questions? Okay.